welcome to Association Rockstars. We hear about the journey and insights of some amazing association executives and partners who are building the association industry of tomorrow. My pleasure to be with you. I'm your host, Lowell Aplebaum, the CEO of Vista Cova. We partner with organizations on facilitation strategy and governance, and incredibly excited to have with me today for a new and exciting format as well, Matt Gruhn. He served as the president of the Marine Retailers Association for over a dozen years. And Matt and the MRA team have built a robust educational platform that includes a redesigned and record-setting annual conference and expo, an expansive catalog of more than 260 dealership-specific online educational courses, the Marine Industry Certified Dealership Program, and a brand new position-specific credentialing program, as well as dozens of publications, tools, and other resources to power the boating industry forward. Matt, I'm so excited to have you with us today.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it and really excited to be here as well.
So, Matt, I'm so excited for you to sort of share the journey and tale of how you and your team have structured engagement for the organization. But before we jump into that, let's just take a moment or two to hear a little bit more about you and your story and how you got to this place. On Rockstars, we always like to start with a question that we talk about, at least in my house with my kids often, which is that everyone, when they come to the table, has unique strengths. And so I'm just curious that for you, as you think about these strengths, superpowers, if you will, what is one superpower you have that has helped you shine in your own journey?
Huh. Um, wow. Okay. Well, I don't know if I think my superpower would be learning, honestly. I mean, I feel like we've done some exploring around values and that sort of thing recently. And I feel like learning is my superpower because the reality is, um, there's a lot of stuff as we've grown, as I've done different things in my career where I've had no clue on how to do it, and I turn to a book or a course or a conference or something like that, and my kind of desire to go out and ask questions and participate in conversations about what we can be doing differently or better has been really kind of the fuel that
Mm.
has driven us as an organization. And I think and myself in my career as well.
So let's hear just for a moment about that in terms of your career. You've been with MRAA for a few years now, and sort of from your own journey, what's led to this moment, this point? Because I think as everyone's with us is going to hear how you and your team have been able to translate, which is an often conversation of member engagement, to a straightforward process is impressive.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, I've been here for about almost 13 years now. I was in publishing prior to being here, and I ran an industry trade publication. I was publisher and editor in chief of that publication for, I want to say it was like 7 years or so. And while we were there, we were producing an awards program where we were basically evaluating boat dealers. So our association, the Marine Retailers, a lot of people think it's military. It's not military. It's boat dealers. And we were doing an awards program where we were evaluating and ranking boat dealers, and just the process of that. We used to always say that the applications were like college manuals on how to run a dealership. And so we
Mm.
learned so much about how to what our members, or not members at the time, because I was at the magazine, but what these businesses were doing to be successful. And we created the awards program, which led us to come to this association and say, hey, by the way, we can help, produce content for your conference because we have all of these strategies and best practices and that sort of thing. And so we started doing that, and helped them run their conference for a number of years. Then I made the jump over here, and it was interesting because when I interviewed for the role, I walked into the boardroom to have my presentation and my interview and everything, and I knew 18 out of the 19 board members in the room because I'd worked with them on the conference and on the awards program and that sort of thing. So it was kind of a natural transition for me to come over here. We now often say that we get to do the same sort of work. It's content generation, it's
Mm.
value building, it's all of that sort of thing for the same audience, the boating industry. We just don't have monthly deadlines for getting a magazine out the door, which is really kind of nice, lower pressure.
I'm glad to hear you feel like it's lower pressure. I think as we go into the engagement model in a moment, we'll see if our attendees feel the same way. I'm gonna, it's okay, transition us into asking you to tell the story of your approach to the model for everyone who is with us. As Matt's sort of walking through how he structured, what he structured, and why, and some of the results of it. If you have questions along the way, feel free to throw them in the chat or the Q&A, and we will uh, pepper him either as we go or at right pause moments. And hopefully, this is a place in a moment that, from a model standpoint, is something everyone can learn from. So, Matt, how would you like to set the stage of sort of the beginning of this engagement journey and then where you brought the organization to?
Sure. Well, so let me start with the transition from the magazine to the association, right?
Yeah.
Our association at the time was in some it was in a different phase, right? It was had grown a little tired and had lost a lot of members and so forth. And we were down to, I want to say it was like 125 members. And when you really do the math of the 125, 19 of them were board members. We have an affiliate program where you have to be a member in order to get into that program. 80 of them are, I think, were in that program. So like
Yeah.
everybody had to be a member to do what they were doing. So it really started off with, okay, we have to create a new value proposition for our members, for our industry. And so we really refocused on how we did that. And over time, as we added benefits and value and programs and that sort of thing over the years, it then kind of became okay, we need to structure this and we need to really kind of measure what matters. And the measuring of what
Mm,
matters, of course, is engagement, because engagement is what your members talk about to
right.
other members and to other members. It's what keeps them in and encourages them to renew and upgrade and come to the conference and that sort of thing. And that engagement is extremely important. So we kind of set out to determine, how do we measure that engagement? And there's so many different ways to do it. And I've seen all kinds of like really complex formulas,
Yeah.
Excel spreadsheets with formulas that give you certain number of points, whether you're on the
Yes.
board or you're, subscribed to a magazine or something like that. But we didn't want to go into that level of complexity, and we just felt like there was a simpler way to do it.
I
And
would I
so,
would agree with you, by the way, that the conversations I've had with organizations that are desperate to track engagement so they can measure success, progress, or challenge, they are constantly challenged by, like, what do we measure? How much do we measure it by? How do we track that? Like, we're going to build a system that tracks it all, but who's actually going to manage it and how do we
right,
translate it? And so the
yeah,
complexities, I think, an
yeah.
echo we've heard throughout.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely deal with a lot of those challenges. I mean, the questions around who's managing it, who's um, responsible for updating, people, our members and engagement scales and that sort of thing. But it's something that we're, ironing out a little bit at a time, and it's helping us in a big, big way.
Perfect. So
Um,
where did you go to?
so if you'd like, I can share some images
Please.
and
Yes.
so forth. So let me hit a couple buttons here. Make sure this is going to work. Everybody can see that, okay?
Yep. I see it just
Okay.
fine.
All right. So first thing I'll just mention on the side is we use Traction to organize our and run our organization. Traction, or EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, been super helpful for us. But everything starts with our 10-year goal. You can see our 10-year goal is listed here. Then you take the 10-year, you break it down into a 3-year, and then on the second page of this vision and traction organizer, there's a 1 year, and then there's quarterly rocks. And you can see our goal here is 100% of our potential members have engaged with us at some point. Notice that doesn't say members. Notice that doesn't say they've come to our conference. It's talking about engaging with us at some point over the next 10 years. And now I think we're 4 or 5 years into this. So um, when we use this, it helps us stay true to it. You'll see a scorecard here. I'll share with you, but um, we really use this to kind of drive us and show what we're doing. So then, as we've built out programs and other events and that sort of thing. We've kind of done so intentionally with how are we continually moving our members forward. Um, one of our corporate or our values is drive, and we talk about drive in that it's continuous improvement, and we talk about to our members that we want you as a member to be focused on continuous improvement. And so through and through, this is a step-by-step stairway to how do you continually improve and grow your organization. It's not just about how you can spend more with MRAA, or become more entwined in what we do and that sort of thing. It's actually continuous improvement. And yes, oh, by the way, it's also increased levels of revenue for us and so forth. So I'll just explain this stairway real quickly. At the very bottom of this is our resource center, and we have a free resource center that anybody in the industry can come into. They can come in and they can download things like data or free publications, or visit a page that's got some ideas and insights in how to strengthen their business in the current climate, whatever that climate might be. And so that free resource center is really kind of our way to get people to understand that we are here, that we're here for them, we're here to support them. We all know how many members are out, or potential members are out there that don't even know that we're here,
Right.
right? So we use that resource center to really capture attention and bring people in. The next step, that level 2, is membership, and that's the entry level point for us. We have a bronze, silver, and gold membership structure, and so that bronze is that level 2, and you get your foot in the door, and then you're able to connect with benefits and programs and so forth. And as you do that, you know, you now are starting to understand a little bit more about who we are as an organization and what we do and why we exist. Okay. Step 3 is our conference. Now you're choosing to spend time with us and with other members. And,
Yeah.
we have a 3 or 4 day conference, annual conference that has been growing as well. But now it's not just hey, I'm going to invest in the membership and maybe take advantage of some benefits. Now I'm coming and seeing what we really are. We call our conference the in-person embodiment of everything that we do, right? Because
Hmm.
it really kind of just puts us on display in a big way. The next step is our education, and our education, online education, is an annual subscription through our silver memberships. Um, the silver memberships give them access to a course catalog that it says in this one, looks like an older image, more than 200 dealer specific courses. We have actually over 260 courses in there now that they
Wow.
can access on how to run their business better. The next step is certification, so they can become a certified dealership within our organization. And that really kind of brings everything else together, all the education, the membership, the benefits, all of that stuff into one nice package. And then our final piece, on here we call it advocacy. You might call it volunteerism. You might call it our foundation. But this is the level 6 is the one that we want all of our members to aspire to, and that is that they're now giving back. They're
Yeah.
not in it for themselves. They're not in it for a direct ROI. They're sitting on the board to help the industry. They're donating funds to your foundation. They're part of the PAC, in that program, and participating in advocacy efforts. And it's kind of the ultimate. They're giving back to the industry. So this is how we view it and share it publicly. And I'll show you how we do it internally. But any questions or thoughts on any of that?
I'll see if there's any questions that come in, but I'll just say what I love about this structure is that's very simple to see. Like the steps image makes it that you can both see how there's a greater effort needed, whether that's a dedication of resource, dedication of time, right? For each step you go up. But the way you tell the story of it has weaved into it what you get for each of those greater places as well of the investment and dedication.
Yeah, I think that's been a really important part that we often overlook internally, is that we've built it intentionally this way, right? We built the different steps for people to aspire to. And you'll see here in a moment, I've got some kind of documents that we use as we're talking to members, or people that we potentially want to move up. But this, we converted this entire thing into an engagement scale that has become our business model. Um, the other thing that this does is it gives us a public view for our members, for us to go, hey, you're only at level 2. You're only a bronze member with us, and it gives them the opportunity to go, well, what's at level 3? You mean I've got 4 more levels above where I'm at today? Yeah, you do, and you could get a lot more out of your membership and your participation with us, and it just gives them that opportunity to really visualize it.
I love it. Denise, I do see your question about it was their engagement increase. I having done this before, it's coming. Give us a few
Yeah.
minutes. You're gonna see the numbers of it.
Yeah. So I'll start moving toward that. So here's
That's right.
the actual internal view of our engagement scale. A 0 on the far left is somebody, again, that we don't even know if they know that we exist. They're out there. We know they're there. We're trying to capture their attention. We're trying to get them to engage with us. The level 1 is where they've now engaged with free resources, but they've made no investment of time or money or energy of any kind, other than they've read our newsletter. They've come to see us at one of the industry events. They've called the office. They've engaged with us and demonstrated they know that we're here, but no investment. Level 2, then, bronze membership. Level 3 is that they've attended our conference. Level 4, online education. 5, certification. And 6, now they're giving back. So we actually formalized this and started this in 2020. We did the research on the universe of our potential members in 2019. We spent a lot of times, about 6 months worth of time, building the database, identifying who's out there, who's not out there, deduping the list, and then figuring out how we wanted to incorporate this into our systems, into our processes, into our technology. And so this is the initial view, and I'll come back to this and show for the question on what the engagement has done. But as we look at this, this is how we measure everybody. Okay. And this is how we quantify what we're doing. Was when we reset this list. We basically said at the end of 2019, everybody's a 0 unless they were currently a member, bronze, silver, or gold, unless they came to our conference in December of 2019, unless they were certified, or unless they were already giving back. So it was reset at that time. Yeah,
Before
go
you
ahead.
show the next one, I want to ask just a cultural question
Sure.
because I love that you discovered sort of the scope of the universe you have. The idea of resetting everyone, like so that they're not even at level 1, like they're at 0. Uh, was there any sort of internal? I could imagine some staff, uh, not fear at that, but oh, that feels heavy. Is there any sort of cultural piece on that?
I think there was a lot of conversation about how to do it. I involved our membership lead. I involved the marketing person that was leading the membership conversation on the marketing side. And we had conversations about how to do this and what was the right way. But at the same time, if you remember back to that first slide, we set that 10-year goal of 100% engagement. So 100% engagement starting on Jan 1 of 2020 was, you're either engaged or you're not. And on that date, we just said, we're going to set everybody at 0, put them in the right bucket if they're engaged, and everybody else is going to have to engage with us at some point over the course of these next 10 years,
Yeah,
and set it that way. And that's kind of how we ultimately landed on the way we did it.
perfect.
So part of the success with this is you've got to build it into your AMS if you have one. We're on YM. We built a custom field called Dealer Engagement Score. There's a couple things to note here. Number one, when we deduped that list and created that list, we basically had to note in YM or in our AMS how we're noting that there is an actual boat dealership. And so we called them a verified boat dealer. Verified boat dealer, yes or no. They could have staff in our AMS, but only one person from each location can have this yes designation. Okay. Then we have this dealer engagement score, and you can see we've built in the scale just like this. It's important to note we now also have this on our partner side, the allied
Mm,
member side, where we have a verified partner contact, and we also have a partner engagement score that mirrors this. So when you talked about the cultural stuff,
yeah.
some of the challenges that we have, of course, is like if the person that's the main contact sells the dealership or leaves the dealership or whatever it might be, we can't just go in and delete their account. We have to find somebody else who's going to be the main contact, make sure that switch is made, make sure that they're rated the right way. So there's been a process of us figuring out exactly how that works. And one other thing, I'll go back one slide. We have a lot of dialogue about, okay, what if one of these members chooses not to renew their certification? Do they stay at this level or where
Mm,
do they go? Right? And we've got a rule where, they can fall all the way down to a level one, but once they've engaged over this 10-year period, they're engaged and they don't fall back into a zero category, even if they completely disappear. So again, we've had to create some rules like that,
yeah.
that has helped us. So so does that make sense and everything's good there? Any questions on any of that?
Yeah. No, no, that makes sense. One or two being asked and handling in the chat because you've said so far, and so I think we're good to keep going.
Okay. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. And so one of the things to note, and I can come back to this if you feel it's appropriate and anybody wants to know about it, but we've got a whole AI system that's helped build this and is now helping to fuel this thing on a level that we never expected. And I'm happy to share that. But I just want to show, as part of this whole strategy, we also have documented sheets on how our staff can reach out to our members and move them up the scale. So we have these sheets where we've pre-populated questions for them to ask and conversations to start with our members. We do require everybody on our team to call one dealer every week so that we're in the know. It's not just for this purpose, but it's for the ultimate purpose of we need to know what's going on in the industry and what our members are thinking about and feeling and what their pain points are and so forth. And so this guides them. We'll hire an entry level position and they're going to be like, well, I don't know how to call a dealer. And so we guide them and give them a bit of a script. Then they have a sheet that they can fill out and turn that into us, or they can just go right into the AMS and make the updates there as necessary. Okay. So there's some structure behind it that helps us manage it and view it, and it helps us have good conversations. And then we also have this um, kind of sell sheet, if you will, on how to help our members. So let me give you an example here. If you remember, level 3 is our conference, level 4 is our online education, and level 5 is our certification. And so how we use these, we call them solution sheets instead of sell sheets because we're always providing solutions. The way that we use this is we would call a level 3. In this case, this is for a level 4, but as an example, we might call a level 3 dealer and say, hey, you've been to our conference. You now see what we do and how we do it and why we do it, and you understand who we are. But what we find is that our members who come to this conference are really hungry to be able to take that content back home to them. I'm sorry, back home to their team members and their staff. And the way that you can do that is you can sign up to be a silver member. And then you'll have access to all of the courses, plus all of the courses from the last X number of conferences that we've recorded. And you'll have access to 265 plus courses in our online catalog.
Mm,
And then if we're actually on the phone with a level 4, we might call them and say, hey, by the way, a dealer like you, who we find at MRA, we find that dealers that are at this level 4 and who have access to all this great online content, what they're looking for more structure and more accountability. And the way that you find more structure and accountability through us is right here with our certification program, because it's where we pull everything together and we prepare you up with a consultant and we help you grow your business that way. And so it's really, it's not just, hey, there's these numbers in a box and a pretty little graphic and that sort of thing. There's actually some context and some strength behind it that allows our team to participate in this in a big way.
Perfect. All
Makes sense.
right. People are salivating over your scripts, just to be clear. All right. We are getting some questions about, which I think I'm going to hold for a slide because I know what's coming, just about like the size of your team and the size of your membership. I think some of it's
Sure.
coming, so I'm just going to hold for a slide or two, and then we'll come to those other
Sure.
questions.
Okay, so here's what I'll do. I'm gonna switch over to this image here. So this is where we started. This gets to the question of how have we grown? Okay. So I'm gonna pause for a second on 2020 because we all know it was the anomaly of all anomalies. And I'm gonna just kind of share with you. And again, I'm gonna go back and share this from the AI portion of this so that you fully understand it. But what we learned in during the COVID time period, we went home in Minnesota March 12th. Was when everything got shut down, and we had to figure out a plan for our team by Monday because everybody was going to come in going, what are we going to do? And so
Right.
what we did as a team is we came back on that Monday and we said, okay, whatever you were doing on Thursday when you left, you're no longer doing that. We now have a different world and a different environment, and we need to focus entirely on helping our team, or I'm sorry, on our helping our industry and our members. And so we had three teams when we came back. We had a outreach team, and the outreach team's job was to call every single one of our members, not to get them to upgrade, not to get them to get certified, like
Mm,
that. Just simply, what's on your
how are
mind?
you? Yeah.
Exactly. What questions do you have? What's keeping you up at night? How can we help you? Okay. And our second team was our education team. And once the outreach team got off the phone, they would pass information along to the entire team, primarily to the education team to say, hey, this is what they're looking for. And our education team would say, we either have it, we know somebody who has it, or we will build it for you.
Mm,
Okay? And so it was their job to respond to that need in a meaningful, impactful way. And then our third team was our marketing team because we felt like if there was one dealer out there that needed these answers, there were likely hundreds, if not thousands, of others who also needed it. So we had an ask team, a build team, and a tell team that really fueled our growth
well,
despite having no
say that
confidence.
again. An ask team, build
Ask,
team,
build, and tell.
tell teams.
Yeah. Where they really fueled our growth and what you'll see here in our engagement with the organization. So that ask, build, tell mentality is still part of our core. We call it our flywheel. If you read Good to Great, you know about the flywheel, but it's what makes us who we are and makes us go. So this was January of 2020. In January of 21, we grew our total engagement from 25% of the market to 39% of the market. You can see every single category grew except for this one. And I believe what happened here was they all stepped up here.
Mm,
Um, and then from 21 to 22, we grew to 44%. Um, Again, most of the categories are growing. 23. Now we're at 50% of the marketplace. So notice we started with 2020, and in 3 years, we're at halfway to our goal. We do know that as we get closer and closer to that 10-year goal of 100% engagement, they're going to be harder to capture because if they
sure.
haven't heard us and engaged with us in the first 8 years, capturing their attention in the next two is going to be really difficult. But we know through our call campaign that we can get them. We're just trying to lower this number down to what we need. So that was January of 23. We're at 50%, and January of 24, we made a huge jump to 58% of the marketplace.
Wow.
So a lot of this has been because of the very focused, concerted effort on driving these numbers. And then the last part of it, I would suggest, has really been done by or been fueled by what we've done with our AI. So
So
I'll pause there. Any questions on that?
yeah, no, this is usually so. First, for everyone who's watching, uh, when I've seen Matt previously discuss this, this is usually the wow slide that people are like, first, this is a simple, all on one slide, like engagement scoring. It is simple to see how they have shifted across levels, right? Like this is tangible enough that this isn't just theoretical, but you don't need complicated point structures. And so this is usually where we get questions. And so if you have questions put in the side, so Matt, I just one question we got, the numbers on the left, right? Those the zeros.
Yep.
Are those all new member engagements? Are those new members? Are those the untapped universe? Just remind us
Yeah.
what the zeros are.
Yeah. So remember, the zeros are the people that we don't know if they know we exist. So these are people that we know are out there, but have not engaged with us at all. So we want this number to be decreasing. And by the time we're done with our 10-year, this should be zero. And all 35 to 3,600 dealerships should be somewhere in the 1 through 6. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
It does to me. I'm watching the chat just to see if there are other questions about that that came in, but I think you explained that well. I, I'm going to ask just some places where I see jumps or things to see if there's anything you can tell us the story of it. The first I want to go to is just sort of the initial level of engagement, because what I think is interesting about the level one you said is that they're not giving you any resources in terms of finance, not paying dues yet, right? For that level one,
Right.
and just seeing the jump between last year to this year, where the number came close to doubling, didn't fully, but like there. Can you just talk a little bit about like how you're defining that level one in a way that like that's a especially as you look at sort of the consistency of 21 to 23
Yeah.
and then the jump this year. Is there any story there we should know about?
Yeah. I mean, part of it is, and this would be my advice with this is like, look, just get started with something like this. We got started, we had a whole lot of questions like you identified earlier, and we didn't know exactly how it was going to work and how we were going to manage it and that sort of thing, and we've had to figure that out. But what you're seeing, I think, is that we're learning. Okay, we're learning how to capture their attention. And so we've been going, so in our industry, our members are the retailers, they sell boats. And in the fall, this time of year, our team is out at dealer meetings where the boat manufacturers are selling their product to the dealers. And we've been going to these meetings for years, but we were never very focused on how do we impact our engagement scale by being there. And so we've become very intentional about it. We've been
Hmm.
very intentional about it in our with our marketing team, and we've been saying, hey, listen, now we have to generate a certain number of leads every month, every quarter, whatever it might be, to help us grow our business. And so what you're seeing in these big numbers and this growth is that, look, we just learned. We started
Right.
doing this. We screwed a few things up along the way. We learned from it. We got better. We got smarter, and it's just helping us grow and impact the numbers.
Earlier, there was a question on your total membership and total member potential. I mean, I think we're seeing here the N of your universe is around 3,600. As a reminder to everyone, MRA is a trade organization. And so we're not talking about individual people.
Right.
We're talking about companies as members.
Right.
And everyone you consider a member is essentially from level two up. Is that correct?
Yeah. The only exceptions to that would be is we do get non-members that come to Dealer Week. And so again, this is another deep conversation that we had to have internally. Like, do we allow them to be a level 3 if they come to Dealer Week, but they are not a member? Um, Technically, you can get certified without being a member, but we don't have any members, any non-members that are certified. But yes, everybody in general, 99% from 2 and up is a member.
Can you just give us a little more detail then if level one is not a member? They're just asking for a little more definition on sort of how do you qualify that definition? Is it as simple as someone from your team had a conversation with them? Does that count as engagement?
Yeah. So again, our definition of it, and I think this is what kind of sets it up for us. So it's a great question, and we have struggled with it a lot over the years and trying to figure out exactly how do we define it. But if we look at level 0 and we define level 0 as we don't know if they know that we're here, level 1 then is they know that we're here and they've shown us by they've called our office, they have stopped by our booth at one of these dealer meetings, they have downloaded a free guide, which we have forms. Another thing that we learned, we put everything, at least if it's not member behind a member wall, it's got a form that you have to fill out in order to access it. Um, and so now they're demonstrating that they know that we're here and that we're a resource for them. And so technically they have engaged, even though they haven't invested anything. Does that help? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that does answer the question. I I have two or three others, but I'm going to hold because I think we're going to get to some results. So I think there's probably some results from this that I'd love to ask you about, but I think perhaps you're going there.
Sure,
So
sure. Um, so one of the things I'll touch on here real quickly is that again, we said we've been learning. Um, One of the things that we just completed this summer was we have now gone in and built out the starting point for personas for every single one of these levels. So, for example, we know based on financial information that was available in our search and the lists and stuff that we bought, we know the financial the total sales for a certified dealer compared to a dealer that's at level 4, compared to a
mm,
dealer that's level 3, and so forth. And so we can build personas around these different levels. We've done that, and we've just now started to talk about, okay, now how do we use that for our marketing messaging to get our messaging a little bit better, a little bit stronger. So that's kind of the next phase and the next step for us. But I think what I can do, Lowell, if you think this is the appropriate time for this, I can share a little bit on the AI side, what we've done
yeah,
to
that'd be great.
fuel this whole thing. Okay, so to start with, if those of you in associations, I don't know if you have the same problem that we have, but our biggest problem has always been we've got all this great content. We've got content from our conference and handouts and downloads and materials. We've got publications that we've produced. We've got webinars that we've done and recorded, so on and so forth. Our problem isn't the content or the amount of content or the quality. It's always been people engaging with it, right? Again, we go back to
Yeah,
the word engagement. And so part of the challenge with that is that, we'll get people that know we're here, but don't have any clue on how to find a specific resource or whatever it might be. And so when we went to the ASAE conference last summer, one of the first booths that we ran across was an AI chatbot, Betty bot, that we engaged with, and we ended up investing in that. And so what we learned from them, and they've got a book on this topic, but as an association, when we talk about our flywheel, okay, flywheel and good to great is you've got this business model that you're pushing on, and you push it once and it goes slow, and you push it twice and it goes a little bit faster, and you continue to push on it until it picks up its own speed and its own momentum. And that's what we think of as a flywheel. And so what we want is we want our this strategy to pick up its own momentum and grow and build on its own. And so as an association, what they acknowledged in this book was you've got the best brand in the market with the best people on your team who produce the best content that helps you build out a wider audience, that helps you build your reputation and improve your reputation, that goes right back into your brand value and brand quality, and around and around and around. Okay, so they talk about this is kind of the general association flywheel. Well, we took this and we built our ask, build, tell around it to be able
mm,
to say, hey, we already have this flywheel that we've been using, and that's helping us build our brand with the best people and building out the right content and growing our audience and improving our reputation. And so we've taken this and kind of layered this together and really think about how we continue to push on that flywheel and continue to improve what we're doing and have more of an impact. And then we launched our own version of this AI chatbot that we call Amy. Amy is another acronym, because, of course, we need more acronyms in our
we live
information,
in them. It's all right.
right? But it's AI for marine industry education. And now, no longer do we have this problem with people can't find our content and can't connect with our content. What we have now is they can land on our homepage, click on the button to go to Amy. And by the way, this is member password protected, silver level and higher, because the content in there is from the courses that are in the silver membership content and higher. And so they can go in here and ask questions. And one of the beautiful things about it is, how many questions come into your association over the phone, and the person that answers the phone doesn't have the answer, and they have to call somebody else or find somebody else on the team that has the answer. They don't have to do that any longer. They can just go right into Amy and ask the question, and the answer will come up with the links to the actual content. So this has helped us as we look at now, we add another layer of this pushing on the flywheel that is helping us grow to where we want to be and helping us engage more of our potential members and so on and so forth. So it's been a huge addition for us. It's really helped again. I'm not a fan of technology for technology's sake. I'm a fan of taking technology and leveraging your business model to make it work more efficiently and effectively. And that's definitely what this has done for us. So,
Can I ask
uh,
a question about
yeah,
that?
go for it.
Unless if you're gonna answer, you don't need to answer it. I mean, clearly from the way Amy functions, it's easy to see how it's a piece of member value, right? Like someone coming in that's a member has a question, ask it without having to wait. There's the answer, there's the resources, there's some references. So I think the external value creator is clear. Is there anything you would comment on about internally? Did the institution of Amy as a supplement to like this engagement strata internally for staff, did it have any impact? Did it replace positions? Did it free up time? Did it really not have any impact? It just increased engagement. Was there any internal cascade?
Um, it's not a replace the staff kind of tool. I think what it's done is it's made things more efficient for us,
Mm.
right? It's an incredible marketing tool for one of our potential members. If we can tell them that, hey, have you considered being a member? Because if you're a member, you can go in and ask any question that you want at any time and get an answer based on our content. It's not Chat GPT where it's going to go pull from Reddit and all of these other platforms with people's opinions and personal perspectives on things. It's our content and it's
Yeah.
closed AI so that it only provides answers. And the best part of it, if I didn't make that clear, was when it provides an answer, Chat GPT style answer, it links you directly to the resources that we have available for that question. And
Mm.
so the real efficiency internally has been our staff has been able to use this as well, right? Our staff has been able to answer member questions. And remember, from an ask, build, tell strategy, our ask was a very manual. I'm going to pick up the phone and call a member and hope they answer or hope they call me back or hope that they will give me the time that I need to talk to them. And now Amy does that for us because every month we get a list of here's every single question that was asked by our members, and we can go in and build content around the questions that they're asking,
Hmm.
right? So it's really when I talk about it's fueling this formula, it really is pouring fuel on this fire to help us grow this and really be focused on this engagement approach.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So so I think that's a lot of what you're starting to see here. We only had Amy for the last uh, well, we had it for the last 3 months of the year in pilot format, but we launched it at our conference at the end of the year, and we had it as a free demo in the event app for the last month of the year. And I think a lot of this came from that.
That makes sense.
So so I talked about a little bit about the technology side. This is also traction. We have a scorecard where we track on a weekly basis how we're doing on engagement scales, so that we can see exactly where we're at, how we're doing. This was from earlier this month, but you can see we had already moved 47 people or businesses from a 0 to a 1, and it must have been from April. Um, that that
Yeah.
was uh, that was done. So that's a bit of the engagement scale itself. I think that's the end of my slides there. I think again, I'm happy to share anything from like the personas or whatever else that you think might be of interest.
Uh, so I'll ask if others have questions about what you've seen to put in the chat. I'll ask just one or two quick things. Uh, is there, without having to share trade secrets, I wonder if you could, from a fiscal perspective, share the implications to the organization. I mean, this greater engagement that you're able to track and see. Uh, any financial impact that has had that you can share?
Yeah, I think again, I'll speak to this and then I can share an image of it if you'd like. But so I mentioned at the outset that our organization was struggling back in 2011 when I came on board, and at the time we were a $300,000 organization. Today we're likely going to hit about 5 million this year. So it's been a pretty steep growth curve
So
that
300,000 in 2011 to 5 million now.
yeah, yeah. And in you know when we switched to the bronze, silver, gold format, we were 144,000, $145,000 in membership dues. And when we didn't make a ton of progress on that, we grew it by it looks like about $11,000, $10,000 between 2017 and 2019, which is it's good growth. But from 2020, when we put this structure into place, we've grown it from what was $155,000 to $490,000 in membership dues because there's both now the membership and that membership upgrade to get the content is
Yeah.
an additional cost. And so the whole structure of this thing has helped us again continue to not just move the numbers in total sheer numbers of dealerships in that engagement scale, but there's been a financial upside to it as well.
In terms of how you recognize people at different levels, is there anything that you could share? I could easily imagine. I mean, you talked about a little internal. Uh, shall I see your question? I'll come to it in one moment. I don't know. You're a level 3, but your competitor is a level 4, right? Like, is there any sort of like teasing to like make people want to keep up?
Yeah, so we have not done that directly yet, and if we have, it's not been done well yet, but it's definitely something we're talking about, right? I mean, if you see, we're naturally competitive, right? And if we
Yeah.
see one of our competitors is capturing more value from a relationship with us, then they're naturally going to want to get in on that. The whole FOMO thing is a big deal, right? Your competitors come to our annual conference. Oh, so now you're going to start coming as well, right? And so we've seen that work fairly well. But I think ultimately we're trying to figure out the right approach to how do we do that in a way that is authentic and
Yeah.
kind, not like belittling people for being at a lower rung on the scale.
Do other members know where other members are at on the scale, or is that just an internal?
No, not at the moment. It's just internal.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Uh, how did you determine the total market? I mean, you said in 2019 you did an effort uh, without going into calculating statistical significance. How did you determine the total market of the universe in that
Yeah,
first?
so great question. So we do have some of our boat builder members share their dealer lists with us. So we had a bunch of those. Then we went and bought a list from Info USA is the company's name. They track companies based on your um, I can't always remember the acronym, but it's like an NAICS number.
Hmm.
So you can request a specific number where a business notes that number in their when they establish their company, and then you can request the numbers from that. And then we just took them all and put them together. And it started off, I want to say it was like 12,000 listings in this document. And then we started deduping by name, alphabetical by name. Then we started deduping by uh, address. They're at the exact
Mm,
same address. Um, and it was a big effort. I think I told you at the beginning, it took us 6 to 8 months to go through the whole thing and really narrow down. And when we landed at the end, it was 3,500 companies in the United States. Now, I haven't mentioned this, but we're also in Canada, and there's another 2 to 400 dealerships in Canada that we're starting this process with, but Canada doesn't have the same process by which they categorize companies, nor can you buy it, that sort of thing. So it's a lot more work
yeah,
uh, to do that. So uh, I would recommend starting with somebody like Info USA.
for this list.
Yeah.
How big is your team, and how big is the team that focuses on membership and engagement?
So we're at 25 people today. Um, and I don't know if I could say exactly where we were when we launched this in 2020, but I believe we were under 20 people. Um, and so that number continues to grow. From a membership standpoint, we have a membership sales point person. We have a membership specialist who is leading the way on like onboarding and member calls and that sort of thing, and the kind of the member journey from sign up to renewal. And then we just hired, and they haven't started yet, an individual to help us uh, strategize and oversee and run the whole membership, uh, business unit.
And then I think that there was a question. Is there anything else you could share about the integration with the AMS? That was it easy? Was it difficult? Is it? I mean, the screen you showed us seemed simple in terms of drop
Yeah.
downs.
Yeah. So it wasn't easy. Or I'm sorry, it was easy to put it in because it was literally you just create a custom field and put in your values and that sort of thing. The challenging part, of course, is like, okay, I talked to a dealer yesterday. I took my daughter on a college visit. On my way home, one of our members called, and if that had been a non-member and on the phone on my drive home, am I going to remember when I get back to the office to update that person's individual, uh, profile and rating and all of that sort of thing? And so that's the hardest part is figuring out exactly how you're going to manage it, who's accountable for it, who's got to do it. If it's, is it the person on the phone, or does the person on the phone tell somebody else? That's I think the operations of it is the hardest part, is just making it sure that everybody knows it's a priority and that it's part of their job.
I could easily talk to you for hours more on this, but Matt, that is exactly why I was so grateful you were willing to come on. The narrative of what you've been able to construct not only has results, but it is the transparency and simplicity, right, of it and its construct really is impressive and informative. So thank you for sharing it.
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask you, we usually round out the usual rock stars we do with one last question, which is, as you think about, long term, the impact you're trying to make, how would you talk about those sort of, when it comes to the end of the day and you move to whatever the next step is, what the legacy is you want to leave behind?
Um, you know, I, I don't know if I have a great answer for that, to be honest with you. I've worked in this industry basically since I got out of college. I actually worked in it for a while I was in high school. I love this industry,
Yeah.
and I want to see this industry be successful. And it's been a pure joy to be able to take this organization and really turn it around and build it to what it is today. And at the end of our conversations, it's really about what's the impact that we're having. Is what I'm doing meaningful, and is it helping, and is it making a difference for people out there? And you know, I think that's really what it's all about. And
Yeah.
so from a legacy standpoint, I feel like, hey, if we're having an impact, which I think we are, I mean, the data seems to suggest that we are, and we're helping some of these organizations run their businesses better and do a better job of, taking care of their teams and their customers and that sort of thing. Um, then there's an impact, and that's what matters.
Well, that sounds like a good answer to me. Matt, can't thank you enough for sharing this. I'm going to share Matt's LinkedIn on the in the chat in case you want to follow up with him. I think I heard you say you're also heading to Cleveland for ASAE, so I'll look forward to seeing you there. And anyone else
Yeah,
that sees him along the way, feel free to say hi.
yeah, absolutely. Be
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Hope this was a place of good learning as you think about what engagement means for you and your organization. We'll look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, Association Rock.